Hi guys and girls, I'm Simon, your podcasting expert online. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when my next video goes live. Now I'm going to be giving you loads of tips, tricks and ideas into how you can grow your podcasting potential through the roof. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay, so we're going to be diving into a few things about how to structure your podcast episode. And one of the things that we're going to start with is, of course, your intro. And this is where you're going to be talking to your audience and explaining a little bit about yourself and what it is that you can do for them. Remember, it's always about them. You need to be really engaged with the listener and really tailoring your podcast to them, okay? You need to let them know what they're going to get out of your podcast, whether it's entertainment, value, comedy, drama, whatever it is, they need to know what they're going to get out of your show. Okay, guys, so what I'm going to quickly run through is your typical podcast format. So that normally starts with a snippet of the show. Now, typically, if you were doing, say, an interview style show, you would just get a nice juicy bit of content, which you've got, at some point in your show, you edit that out and use that as like a soundbite in order to kickstart your show. And that is going to be like the kind of the clickbait, the sort of the teaser in terms of being able to like reel people in and really get them interested. Then what you're going to want to do is record an intro. Now, this is something which you repeat on every single podcast episode, and you always make sure it's at the beginning of your show, hence being called an intro. What people normally do is to have what's called like a music bed underneath. So that just means some light sort of background music, whatever style you think is going to suit you and your brand and your audience. And that just helps to really sort of start off the show nicely. It just gives a nice rounded introduction to your show and what it's going to be about. Now, you might be at the stage in your podcast where you have got a really good loyal fan base. You've got lots of listeners, and say you've got 1,000 plus. A lot of people at this sort of point start to look for sponsorship. Not only as a way to monetize their content, but as a way to help support the running of the show, like financially, because there are costs involved with hosting and recording and editing if you're going to outsource things like that. So being able to monetize your show in some sort of way is a really, really good idea. When you are looking for sponsors, make sure that they are a sponsor which is kind of in line with your brand and in line with what your values are, if you see what I mean. If your podcast was about health and fitness, your sponsor would want to be something which is tied into that industry. So it might be supplements, it might be gym membership, it might be clothing, whatever that might be, and that fits in. You wouldn't want to pick something like a gaming brand or something, which is might be something that you're interested in, but it has no relevance to your show. And the key thing is when you are inserting your sponsored content in your podcast, that it goes with the flow of what you're talking about and it doesn't interrupt the listener too much, because it can be really off-putting. So make sure you've got that sponsor which is really going to tie in nicely with your overall brand. Then what we're going to want to do is have the main body of content. Now, it's completely up to you how long you want your podcast to last for. Some people have 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or like 45 minutes. It really depends on the topic. Don't be put off by some people who have got, say, like a 2-hour show thinking you need to create content which needs to last that long. You just need to do what's right for you and your audience, okay? So typically a lot of people go for around 40, 45 minutes or anywhere up to an hour, which I think is quite a good time. It feels quite digestible and you can create enough content for sort of a couple of car journeys or, maybe a morning and an evening of someone's day. So it's up to you, but do your research beforehand and just see what other podcasts in the same area of interest which you're doing, and just check how long they are in duration. And then of course we've got the outro. Okay, so this is really important that we round off the podcast. Now, what people normally do when they're rounding off the podcast is to have some key takeaways. I absolutely love this when I listen to a podcast and I really enjoyed the content, and at the end you get the host talking to a person being interviewed and they just ask them for some key takeaways or some tips which they can deliver to the listener. And I find that really, really helpful. Remember that the whole purpose of your show is to be nurturing and speaking to your audience, really giving them as much value as possible. And then also on an outro, people usually want to guide their listeners somewhere else. So they might say, check out the description in the show notes. I'm going to talk about show notes in another video. They will put the relevant links to any products which have been placed in your podcast, or any reading material, or any other links which might be really relevant to your listener. Okay guys, so just to summarize, we've got those things again. So your intro snippet, which is a segment of audio which you're going to be using from the podcast. That's the juicy bit, which you want to be using as a teaser. And then you've got your intro, which is the section about yourself, where you're going to talk about the show, what things you're going to uncover in the show, and what sort of value you're going to deliver to the listener. The next thing is sponsorship. You might not be looking to get sponsorship just yet if you're really early on in your podcast. Whereas if you've been going for a while, this might be something you want to do, and a really great way to monetize. The next section is the main body of the conversation. This can be between you and the listener, or you and someone that you're interviewing. And then finally, your outro. And this is where you can do a full sort of summary of what you've been talking about, and any key takeaways, really, really important. And any links which you can offer to your listeners, which are going to be really helpful, and offer and guide people and tell them where to go in order to pick up the show notes and pick up any relevant information which you want them to get their hands onto. Okay guys, so I know that was a short video today. I hope there was something useful for you to take away in order for you to create your own podcast and to start structuring it. Please like this video if you like what I was talking about, and put any comments in there below, and I will be able to get back to you and answer any questions you have about structuring your podcast. There's a link below to my website where you'll find some more information about me and what I do. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. All right guys, see you soon.